On the 28th of February 2026, something happened that genuinely shocked the world. The United States and Israel launched a full military attack on Iran. Airstrikes, missiles, a massive coordinated operation that killed Iran's supreme leader, one of the most powerful men in the Middle East, within hours. And here's the part that broke people's brains. It happened less than 2 days after U.S. and Iranian diplomats were sitting in a room in Geneva talking, negotiating, trying to make a deal. One day peace talks, the next day war. So what actually happened? Why did two of the most powerful military forces on Earth decide to attack a country while still pretending to negotiate with it? That's what we're going to break down today. No sides, no agenda, just the full picture so you actually understand what happened and why. To understand February 2026, you have to go back further, because the US and Iran have basically been enemies since 1979. That was the year Iran had its Islamic Revolution. The Shah, who was a US-backed leader, got overthrown. A new Islamic government took over, and one of its first acts was allowing students to storm the US embassy in Tehran and hold 52 Americans hostage for 444 days. That moment poisoned the relationship between the two countries for decades. Fast forward to 2015, after years of tension, something rare happened. Iran, the US, and several other world powers signed a nuclear deal called the JCPOA. Iran agreed to limit its nuclear activities. In exchange, international sanctions on Iran would be lifted. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. Then, in 2018, President Trump, during his first term, pulled the US out of the deal entirely. Iran waited a while, then slowly started ramping up its nuclear program again, and that set the stage for everything that followed. Here's the core issue that kept every world leader up at night. Iran was enriching uranium. Now, enriching uranium isn't automatically about building a bomb. Countries do it for nuclear power plants. Iran always said that's all it was doing. But here's the problem. The same process that produces fuel for a power plant, if you push it far enough, can produce material for a nuclear weapon. And by early 2026, Iran had enriched uranium to levels that were getting uncomfortably close to weapons grade. The UN's own nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, and U.S. intelligence agencies both assessed that Iran hadn't actually built a bomb. Iran had signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. They consistently denied wanting one. But Israel and the U.S. argued that the capability itself was the threat. Their logic was simple. A country doesn't need to have a bomb to be dangerous. It just needs to be weeks away from having one. And that, they said, was no longer acceptable. Now here's where it gets really interesting. In early 2026, the Trump administration was actually in talks with Iran, indirect negotiations, with Oman acting as the go-between, happening in Geneva. And according to multiple reports, those talks were going somewhere. The Omani foreign minister said there had been significant progress. Iran was apparently willing to make real concessions on its nuclear program. But Trump said publicly he was not thrilled with how the talks were going. And then, behind the scenes, something else was happening. Israel, led by Netanyahu, had been pushing hard for military action for months. Netanyahu had spent nearly 2 decades arguing that Iran's nuclear program needed to be destroyed, not negotiated away. His argument was straightforward. You can't trust a deal with Iran. The moment the pressure is off, they'll just rebuild. The only permanent solution, in his view, was to destroy the program physically. And he had a point. The June 2025 strikes had already hit Iran's nuclear facilities once, and Iran had reportedly started rebuilding. So when diplomacy seemed close to a breakthrough, Israel and the U.S. made a decision: strike now, while Iran was at its weakest. Here's something most people don't know. By early 2026, Iran was not in a strong position. The economy was collapsing. Sanctions had been squeezing the country for years. The currency was in freefall. Ordinary Iranians were furious, and massive protests had broken out across the country. The regime had put them down hard: arrests, violence, force. But the cracks were showing. On top of that, Iran's military allies across the region had taken serious hits. Hezbollah in Lebanon had been weakened by Israeli strikes. Hamas had been devastated in Gaza. The so-called Axis of Resistance, Iran's network of proxy forces across the Middle East, was a shadow of what it had been just 2 years earlier. Iran was isolated, economically broken, militarily weaker than it had been in years. For Israel and the U.S., the thinking was, if not now, when? On 28 February 2026, the strikes began. The operation was codenamed Operation Epic Fury. The targets were Iran's nuclear facilities, its ballistic missile sites, its military infrastructure, and its leadership. Within hours, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, the man who had ruled Iran for over 35 years, was dead. Iran immediately launched a massive retaliation. Hundreds of missiles, thousands of drones, hitting Israel, U.S. military bases across the Middle East, and even striking Arab countries that host American forces. The UK got dragged in too. Iranian drones hit a British military base in Cyprus. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that about 20% of the world's oil passes through, became a battleground. Global oil prices spiked, shipping routes were disrupted, airlines canceled flights across the region. For about 40 days, the Middle East was a war zone. A ceasefire was eventually declared on 8 April 2026. But the fighting hasn't fully stopped. Even now, missiles are still being fired, negotiations are still ongoing, and the region is still holding its breath. This is the part where people want a clear answer. And honestly, it's complicated. The U.S. and Israel say they had no choice. Iran was weeks away from nuclear capability. Diplomacy had been tried and failed repeatedly since 2018. The threat was real, the window was closing, and the time to act was now. Critics say something very different. They argue that diplomacy was actually working, that the talks in Geneva were close to a real breakthrough, and that the attack happened specifically to kill that deal, not because it had failed. They point out that Iran had never actually built a nuclear weapon, that the IAEA and U.S. intelligence both said there was no active weapons program, that attacking a country during peace negotiations is a serious violation of international norms. And they ask a harder question. What happens next? Khamenei is dead. His son took over. The regime is still there. The nuclear knowledge doesn't disappear just because the facilities got bombed. And now an entire country has a very fresh, very real reason to want revenge. There are no clean answers here. What's clear is that a decision was made by two governments that the risk of doing nothing was greater than the risk of going to war. Whether that decision was right is something the world is still figuring out. So here's where this leaves us. The war between the U.S., Israel, and Iran didn't come out of nowhere. It came from decades of mistrust, from a broken nuclear deal, from a region where every country is playing a dangerous game of chess, and where one wrong move affects oil prices, shipping routes, and ordinary people's lives across the entire planet. The ceasefire is holding for now, but the story isn't over. Iran has a new supreme leader, talks are ongoing, and the question of Iran's nuclear future is still unanswered. Whatever side you're on, the one thing that's certain is that what happens next in that region will affect all of us. And now, at least, you understand how we got here.